They're able to do it because they've used and abused the law to their advantage. It's really tragic.
Imagine you run a chain of pubs. It's Monday morning, you grab a cup of coffee and fire your entire casual workforce, around 700 of them. Then later that day, you rehire them under a different agreement, which means you don't have to pay them penalty rates on Australia Day, 3 days later. That's exactly what hospo giant Mantle Group has been accused of doing.
If you're a casual worker and the choice is either no work at all or sign up with this new employer, what are you going to do? You're going to sign up with the new employer.
The group operates 15 venues across southeastern Queensland and 2 in Sydney.
Unfortunately, as it stands, it is legal. Fighting Mantle Group is like playing whack-a-mole. Every time we have a win, they resurface with a new dodgy agreement.
The change coming just 10 days after the Fair Work Commission reportedly found the Mantle Group had systematically ripped off its workers, forcing them to pay penalty rates to casuals for the first time in 22 years.
Mantle Group have been avoiding penalty rates for 22 years, and they just continue to do this by moving workers from agreement to agreement and entity to entity. It's really shocking conduct within the hospitality industry.
In a statement, the Mantle Group insists the new arrangement has been well received and casual workers have and will be paid penalty rates.
We don't think that Mantle Group paid penalty rates on Australia Day. Based on Mantle Group's history and conduct, we don't think that they will pay penalty rates the way that they say they will.
The new agreement reportedly contains a clause preventing workers from making negative comments about their employers or discussing their pay.
Overwhelmingly, Mantle Group employ young workers, migrant workers, and casual workers, and they have very little voice.
It seems to be their modus operandi for the way they run their businesses. So I don't know what it'll take for them to stop doing it. This isn't the first time it's happened, including in other industries. It's more widespread than we realise.
So the way I understand the law works, and this is how it worked when I, was in business, is that there is an award. There's a hospitality award that protects and covers all the workers. It is legal to have agreements that sit outside that award, but you cannot create an agreement that leaves people worse off than if they were under the award.
And how easy is it to make sure that you're doing that?
It's not easy at all. So basically, what happens is instead of all the prescribed rates and the penalty rates, if you're doing an agreement, you have to make sure that what you're paying is going to cover if they work a public holiday, or it's going to cover even if they don't. So it takes a lot of... you've got to be really vigilant as an employer. And as an employee, and we're talking about people here, migrant workers, casual workers, young workers, vulnerable people, aren't necessarily going to have the skills that they need to ensure that they're being paid the correct amount of money.
Doesn't the broader environment that we're in at the moment make it harder for companies to get away with doing stuff like that, if indeed that's what they're trying to do? When there are so many jobs going, we know the demand for hospitality workers.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make it more challenging for an employer to make things difficult for them?
Absolutely, it should, and on the surface of it, it would. And as an employer, I'd say, come and work for me, I'll look after you. But I guess when you're in the position of this is my job, this is what I have to bring in to pay the bills, there's a risk involved in saying, stuff you in your agreement, I'm going to go and work for somebody else. There's still a risk.
You've got 700 jobs going.
Me? Oh, God, no, I don't.
Send emails through to Julie.
Stop it!
gmail.com.
Oh, my God.
Send her into